Making the headlines tonight. Prime Minister Hun Sen announces that he is ready to consider how autonomy can be maintained in the scenario of a nuclear war or World War III. U.S. President Joe Biden says he would use force as a last resort to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. And a NASA scientist says he was moved to tears by one of the inaugural photos from the Webb Space Telescope showing a galaxy cluster, nearly as old as the Big Bang. This is the Daily Roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Darshana Gauchan. Prime Minister Hun Sen has announced that he is ready to consider how autonomy can be maintained in the scenario of a nuclear war or World War III. EAC News reporter Dekanin has the story.
Speaking at the work review meeting of the Ministry of Tourism on Thursday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that the crisis of the Russia-Ukraine war has now caused the world to disintegrate, lose order, and have an energy crisis. He said, the world will face even more difficulties in the future, which could lead to a nuclear war or even World War III.
Nom dương mà đăng tha nom dương ta đào tì nà sọc kriêm nuclear ai cạt miền của ai thả bản rư sọc kriêm lốc lực thị bay ai cạt miền của thả bản bản toàn phốt tập đá cao đi tê cặp bông tay cầm riêng cầm hai kia tao với tao bao đi cặp bông cầm riêng cầm hai kia tao với tao bao đi sát tha đặc biệt lúc chưa sát tha đặc biệt để dân trời mơ khơi triêm cất tục ở hỏi đã bay chuyên tờ rốc phiếp mà chắc cảរបស់យើងនៅក្នុងប្រទេសរបស់យើង
On Friday, 8th of July, the Cambodian Council of Ministers approved the request for Cambodia to become a party to the Convention on Assistance in the case of a nuclear accident or radiological emergency of the International Atomic Energy Agency. This convention was adopted in 1986 following the Chernobyl nuclear plant accident and sets out an international framework for cooperation among states, parties, and with the IAEA to facilitate prompt assistance and support in the event of nuclear accident or radiological emergencies. It requires states to notify the IAEA of their available experts, equipment, and materials for providing assistance. In case of a request, each state party decides whether it can render the requested assistance as well as its scope and terms. The crisis in Ukraine is affecting the whole world, causing an energy crisis and greater division between Russia and the United States. NATO, a U.S. ally, has deployed troops in its member states in response to the attacks made by Russia, while Russia has stepped up military action in Ukraine and passed a number of laws to support domestic industry to its military activities as well. Russian President Vladimir Putin confirmed in February that Russia's nuclear armed forces were ready for any Western national security threat. Dekanin, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen has urged all mobile phone services to improve their internet services in both rural and urban areas. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
While speaking at a work review meeting of the Ministry of Tourism on Thursday morning, Prime Minister Hun Sen said he is urging for improvement on the internet services because people no longer need to work face-to-face. He has added remote work has also strengthened domestic tourism. The COVID-19 pandemic forced people to stay indoors and social distance. Many workplaces were able to adapt and change their daily operations to remote work. As the world opens up again due to widespread vaccination, allowing greater control over the disease, some companies have already returned to work in person, while some still continue to opt for remote work. Some countries have also issued special visas for remote workers, as working from home is now here to stay. Cambodia is hopeful for more long-stay tourists in the country. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The Secretary of State of the Ministry of Social Affairs, Veterans and Youth and Secretary General of the Disability Action Council, M. Chan Makara, has supported and encouraged the integration of disability-related data into digital systems to promote the successful implementation of the rights of persons with disabilities, as well as programs focused on allowing persons with disabilities to benefit more from society without facing discrimination and with an improved quality of life. Speaking at the opening ceremony of the training course on data entry and reporting on the web application of the Disability Action Council on Thursday morning, 14th July, Secretary of State Chan Makara stated that web applications will help facilitate ministries, institutions, and capital provincial disability action councils in transmitting statistical data and reports on the implementation of the National Disability Strategic Plan to the General Secretariat of Disability Action Council. This sharing of data is a necessary measure to analyze and evaluate the progress of implementing this strategic plan, and also provides important input for the preparation of a comprehensive report on the progress of the overall disability sector, which is to be submitted to the Royal Government as well as the United Nations Office. He added that this is the second time that Disability Action Council has opened a training course for officials related to the disability sector in Cambodia, and hopes that after completing the course, participants will gain knowledge on how to enter data more clearly in the system. He said, "Your duties and responsibilities in integrating data and reports into the web application accurately are very important, because this is an important contribution to the implementation and evaluation of the National Disability Strategic Plan, in line with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and other national and international legal norms aimed at furthering the success of the rehabilitation of persons with disabilities in all areas of development and social equality." In order to monitor participation in the implementation of the National Disability Strategic Plan 2019 to 2023 for ministries, institutions, and other relevant partners by the end of 2021, the General Secretariat of Disability Action Council, in cooperation with the United Nations Development Programme, built a monitoring system which evaluates the implementation of the strategic plan through a web application that collects and compiles all input statistical data. This data is then submitted to Disability Action Council to analyze and include in a final report on the progress of the disability sector in Cambodia.
If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
U.S. President Joe Biden said he would use force as a last resort to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon as he began a trip to the Middle East.
Times, this is your 10th visit, but first, Your first as president.
Speaking in an interview with Israel's Channel 12 TV that was recorded before he left Washington on Tuesday the 12th of June but aired Wednesday the 13th of June, Biden said he will keep Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps on the US Foreign Terrorist Organization's list even if it killed off in 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Asked if his past statements that he would prevent Tehran from obtaining nuclear weapons meant he would use force against Iran, Biden replied, if that was the last resort, yes. Iran denies it seeks nuclear weapons, saying that it is a nuclear program in solely peaceful purposes. Tehran struck a deal with 6 major powers in 2015 under which it limited its nuclear program to make it harder to obtain a weapon in return for relief and economic sanctions. US President Donald Trump reneged on the deal in 2018 and imposed harsh sanctions on Iran, prompting Tehran to start violating the agreement nuclear limits about a year later. Efforts to reject the deal far from failed, with a senior US official telling Reuters that the chances of its rival were lower after indirect talks between the United States and Iran Doha 2 weeks ago. Negotiators appealed close to a new deal in March, but talks broke down largely because of the US refusal of Tehran's demand for Washington's remove the IRGC from the terrorism list, arguing that was outside the scope of reviving the pact. Asked if he was committed to keeping the IRGC on the FTA list, even if it killed a deal, Biden replied yes. The IRGC, a powerful political function in Iran, controls the business empire as well as the elite armed and intelligent forces that Washington access the global terrorist campaign.
Bodies of Mexican migrants who died in a sweltering trailer truck during a failed smuggling attempt in San Antonio last month were repatriated on Wednesday so their families can mourn them at home.
25 of the victims from Mexico out of 53 victims will be brought back to their places of origin, according to the Mexican government, who will cover the repatriation expenses. 2 flights with 16 bodies landed at the Toluca airport in Mexico State, departing from San Antonio, and a third one is expected. Among those repatriated, there were some of the youngest victims, Giovanni and Sai Olivares, and their cousin Misael Olivares, all of them from Veracruz. Coming from a small town in that eastern state, Alaquilapan, Teofilo and Yolanda Olivares told reporters weeks ago about the painful choice to let their children go on June 21st, following in the footsteps of other cousins who migrated 8 months ago to the United States. WhatsApp messages between Sai and his father that read, Sai, yes, thank you. We are going to make a great effort to be back with the little ones to be able to work, pay for everything, and do everything we can. We will try our best. Valencia, are you going to be let out? Sai, apparently they will return for us shortly. Valencia, do you have shoes? Sai, yes, I got some size 8. Valencia, what is happening? June 28, 2022. Valencia, Sai, talk to me, son. Valencia, son, talk to me. This was the last time they had contact with each other before Valencia found out the sad news about his son. Hermelina Morteda, Misael's mother, said her son had ambitions to go beyond the family's shoemaking tradition. Teofilo said the family agreed to pay a smuggler 200,000 pesos for each of his sons to be taken to the United States. He added he had to pawn his home to meet the payment.
Let's have a look at today's finance. The CSX index is currently at 483.29 points, down 1.24 points or 0.26%. The National Bank of Cambodia's daily exchange rate is 4,085 Khmer Rial to the USD. Now a look at what else is happening in finance.
CGCC launches co-financing guarantee scheme for the tourism to support the recovery of growth of tourism sector. To support the government's policy in the recovery and growth of the tourism sector, Credit Guarantee Corporation of Cambodia has launched a co-financing guarantee scheme for the tourism after the approval of the Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Economy and Finance. The joint efforts of the 2 state-owned enterprises, CFGST of CGCC and the TRCS of the SME Bank, will improve access to finance for all tourism sector. CFGS-TR is specified designed to provide credit guarantees on co-financing loans disbursed by the CGCCS participating financial institutions under the Tourism Recovery Co-Financing Scheme of the SME Bank of Cambodia. CFGS-TR of the CGCC and the TRCS of SME Bank are joint efforts of the two state-owned enterprises to improve access to finance the SME in the tourism sector. TRCS will aim to lower SME's cost of borrowing. CFGS-TR is a guaranteed scheme that will act as collectible security for 80% of the loan. This will reduce the physical collateral required from borrowers, and the CFGS-TR will support the new loan disbursements in the banking sector. The co-financing scheme is aimed to help with the tourism recovery. The financing business sector will be helping businesses to resume operations, renovate or modernise services, particularly to help expand the desertified tourism services through the out of the country, mainly in Siem Reap. The Royal Government of Cambodia released in May a financial intervention package of $150 million to help revive the tourism industry by financing businesses that were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The package of $75 million was from the government through the SME Bank and from other financial institutions. 500,000 international tourists have returned to Cambodia in the first 6 months of 2022, an increase of 394% compared to the same period last year. The government expects at least 2 million of the foreign tourists by this time next year as it has eased COVID-19 testing and quarantine requirements. Cambodia has attracted up to 6.61 million international tourists in 2019, generating gross revenue of 4.92 billion, according to the Ministry of Tourism. Tourism was one of the 4 pillars supporting Cambodia's economy. That's the latest news on finance today. Tune in tomorrow for more.
And finally, a NASA scientist said on Tuesday that he was moved to tears by one of the inaugural photos from the Webb Space Telescope that shows a galaxy cluster, part of which dates to nearly 95% as old as the Big Bang.
And liftoff. Decollage, liftoff from a tropical rainforest.
Astrophysicist Dr. Thomas Buchan, NASA's Associate Administrator for the Science Mission Directorate, told Reuters that the photo among the first batch from the largest, most powerful observatory ever launched to space is the reason the telescope was launched.
The one, frankly, that moved me to tears the first time I saw it was that deep field image, right? It's looking at the universe in a way we've never seen it, and looking deeper in the universe all the way to within a few 100 million years of the Big Bang. The first galaxies that are formed there, we know some of them are older already now, at first look, than 13.1 billion years. And for me, that's just mind-boggling. To the untrained eye, this is a red speck. But to the trained eye, this is why we built this telescope, and it's working and it's there. And it's not only there, it is already delivering results. To me, that is just an incredible achievement and, a one that will surely make history.
The first full-color high-resolution pictures from the James Webb Space Telescope, designed to peer further than before with greater clarity to the dawn of the universe, were held by NASA as milestones marking a new era of astronomical exploration. Nearly 2 decades in the making and built under contract for NASA by aerospace giant Northrop Grumman Corp., the 9 billion infra telescopes were launched on December 25, 2021. It reached its destination in solar orbit nearly 1 million miles from Earth a month later. Sabakan said he was profoundly relieved after the first images came in because there were thousands of ways that things could go wrong in the complex deployments and optics to be set up. However, he felt very proud of the team after the first images returned successfully. The first image, released SMACS-0723, showed a deep field photo of a distant galaxy cluster. SMACS-0723 revealing the most detailed glimpse of the early universe recorded to date. One of the older galaxies appearing in the background of the photo, a composite of images of different wavelengths of light, dates back about 13.1 billion years. The Big Bang, the theoretical flashpoint that set the expansion of the known universe in motion, occurred some 13.8 billion years ago. Apart from the imagery, NASA presented Webb's first spectrographic analysis of a Jupiter-sized exoplanet more than 1,100 light-years away, revealing the molecular signatures of filtered light passing through its atmosphere, including the presence of water vapor. Scientists have raised the possibility of eventually detecting water on the surface of smaller, rockier Earth-like exoplanets in the future. The goal is to find components of the atmospheres of planets that have the promise that they could be hosts of life. Among the 4 other web subjects getting their close-ups on Tuesday were 2 enormous clouds of gas and dust blasted into space by stellar explosion to form incubators for new stars, the Carina Nebula and the Southern Ring Nebula, each 1,000 light years away from Earth. The collection also included fresh images of another galaxy cluster known as Stephan's Quintet, first discovered in 1877, which encompasses several galaxies NASA described as locked in a cosmic dance of repeated close encounters. Built to view its subject chiefly in the infrared spectrum, Webb is about 100 times more sensitive than its 30-year-old predecessor, the Hubble Space Telescope, which operates mainly at optical and ultraviolet wavelengths. With Webb finely tuned after months spent remotely aligning its mirrors and calibrating its instruments, scientists will embark on a competitively selected agenda exploring the evolution of galaxies, the life cycle of stars, atmospheres of distant exoplanets, and moons of our outer solar system.
Thank you for watching the Daily Roundup here on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, you can check out our website, eacnews.asia, or search EAC News on Telegram, Smart TV, or at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team tomorrow night at 8 p.m. We will see you then.